Welcome to episode 7 of Into the Clashiverse. Tonight you have me, Drac, along with...
Me, Wolfy.
So we are part of the Red Thorn family of clans. I am one of the co-leaders over in the Rated. And joined, that with my kiddo, Wolfblade, goes by Wolfy. Today we're recording the evening of when the March update dropped. So we're going to be talking about that and some of the state of Clash, as well as digging into other topics. The irony is our last episode, we were talking about burnout. And one of the things that causes a lot of people burnout is the training time and dealing with getting through all their attacks in a day. Well, the day after we released our recording, guess what came out? The announcement of...
no more training time for any troops except for the clan castle.
What's great is no more training time. And what is now going to be, I guess, roughly 4 days from now, because to go along with the no training time, to reduce, they're also implementing something to reduce the clouds, which they take snapshots of bases. They said that's going to take them 2 to 4 days to get through. So hopefully by, the end of the week, maybe by, April, we're going to have it where training times are gone.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Training time has always been my number one enemy for getting all my hits in at 11 o'clock at night, right before the reset.
A teenager's lack of preparation is shocking to folks? Probably not.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. So in addition to that, there's a bunch of cost and time reductions that are coming here for Town Halls 8 through 16. If you want to check out more, Clash Ninja, he's one of the amazing creators out there. He has a guide you can check out all the details of the time reductions for the various Town Hall levels. For me, for my alts, I'm very excited about the wall time reduction or the wall cost reduction.
I don't know. I'm a little mixed on the wall cost reduction because I already have maxed walls and he is now just able to catch up to me even more quickly.
Well, I don't OCD on walls like some people.
Yeah, you OCD over your attacks.
Who has the perfect CW all weeks?
Okay, that's not fair. You got those when one finger deploy was around.
Both
exactly before
and after one finger deploys.
And during.
And there was one during. Now,
it's like 3 during. I don't know what you mean.
Just one. For folks who might be curious about what we mean by the one finger deploys, it was the onslaught of the initial root riders where you could pretty much drop all your troops in a corner in 3-star and not worry about it. So one of the other big updates for those who like the builder base, the loot has increased.
Yeah, take it from here. All of the builder base battle loot has doubled. So any loot that you would get for getting, say, like 6 stars or even defending with 1 star, then all of your loot that you would have gotten from that is now doubled from this next update. So I don't know. I really haven't done an attack in the builder base for, I think, a month and a half because my battlecopter has been down from level 15 and is now at 32. So big updates for the builder base.
Well, at least from your perspective.
From my perspective. You don't care at all, do you?
For me, it's the gem mine base. And
yeah, once you get that gem mine up, that's it.
Yeah, if we move the gem mine over and the 6 builder over, I'm good. We could then get rid of the entirety of that code base. Hey, Supercell, save yourself some time and effort and get rid of the builder base. Simplify your game.
Yeah, take a look at what percentage of players actually play it actively.
Probably more than what you or I would like.
Yeah.
But welcome to the literal dark side of not liking the builder race. One of the other things that showed up is a bug fix that I'm excited about that has bitten me more times than I care. Using the builder assistant and hitting the checkbox for assignment would be sticky. That's supposed to be fixed. So we'll check in at 24 hours from now and see if that actually worked. I am hopeful that it's going to stick.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I am notorious for forgetting where my builder apprentice is.
The disembodied hand waving at you doesn't draw you in?
No, because I have the lab assistant already done, so he just sits there the entire time.
Same. The disembodied hand isn't enough of a signal?
Nope.
Okay. Well, in this release is finally some defensive upgrades that I've been looking forward to, and that's the Monolith. That's my favorite. The Inferno Towers, second favorite. And thrown in there as well is also the Builder Huts.
Yeah, the builder huts are actually my second favorite. I could care less about the Infernos. The Infernos to me are just like a little bit more damage. So, yes, they're still dangerous, but they've always been kind of like this dangerous, don't go near if you don't want to get zapped.
But percentage wise, it's one of the heftiest updates and out of all the defense that we're getting at Town Hall 17.
That is fair. But if you also look at the builder huts, they get 15 damage, which is 10%, and an extra 5 repair per second, which is the biggest part.
I'm excited about the Builder Huts. I wish they just introduced this right off the bat. But in terms of these three are some of my favorites.
Going back to the builder huts, I think the best part about them is they can no longer be gotten by the giant arrow. They are now just above, meaning that you cannot get them in your line of fire as extra value.
That is a nice bonus for those of us who can't stand the giant arrow.
Yeah, because some of us can't aim.
No, some of us can aim, we just don't care.
Fair.
This time is the first time we're seeing the Monolith get supercharges.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy with that. I do think they made the right call with the not allowing for any more extra percent as a supercharge, because 15% damage would have just gone.
That's over the top.
That's over the top. That's next level.
And really the thing that I'm trying to get to is the extra HP on the Monolith, because just making it that much harder for Fireball, or just taking longer for it to go down defensively, I'm excited for that. And I think this is the first time we're seeing the Monolith, because they had to code up like the upgrade values to use Dark versus some of the other resources, which were just Golden Elixir. So in this update, we're also getting new levels for various things. So we have troop levels. We have Hogs, Golems, Ice Golems, and the Yeti.
Yeah, more on the Yeti soon.
Super update?
Yeah, it's a super cool update.
Yeah. So there's also 5 levels on the Unicorn. Each level brings 1 extra HP per second healing.
Wow. So much more healing.
So you're going to spend, what, 600,000 Dark or more?
And
to get
like 30 days or more.
Yeah, each level is, what, 6 days?
Yeah.
So on average, let's say it's 6 days. That's spending a month upgrading the Unicorn for an extra 5 HP per second. No, thank you. Supercell, if you're wanting to get the Unicorn back in use, you need to do more. We get why you're doing it, but man, that's a swing and a miss.
Yeah, I think the next big thing is the new Dark Troop, which is pretty much a direct clone from Clash Royale, the Furnace.
The Furnace? Okay, well, I have pretty much ignored Clash Royale, so why don't you fill us in, Wolfie?
So the Furnace is a troop that kind of resembles the Dark Barrack right now, where it will slowly unleash little fire mites that are similar to the Yeti mites, except they have fire. And they release this little splash, I'm pretty sure, like the Flame Flinger. And they're honestly a little underpowered. They are one space, they die super easily, and they just don't do much damage.
They need tanks.
They do need a tank in front, like a nice golem or something.
So what you're saying, this update might need some work?
Yeah, it definitely needs some work. I think they really need to add some more ways to get the troops out to the community to test them first before full release, get some more player testing data, and then go with those changes in the full major release.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my long running critiques for years is like the play testing for updates needs a thorough job.
Yeah. The next biggest thing that came out was the new pet, which is called Sneezy, which I predicted on our last podcast.
Yeah, it kind of drives me batty.
Yeah. Our nickname for it is the COVID-19 pet.
As it's a bat that then spreads via sneezing.
Boogers.
I understand Supercell is trying to have a kid-friendly audience, having things like that, but your paying audience is really adults.
Yeah, I think that was a miss of a name. I think it's more of a joke within the dev team that they said, let's put in a booger.
Well, what did they call in the gem base the little things from Auto? Zappies.
Yeah.
Never trust engineers to name things, and I think they did. There is something kind of cool. We'll see what turns of it is. There's new common equipment for Mary Poppins. I mean, the Minion Prince. It's called the Noble Iron.
Yeah. So what the Noble Iron does is it makes the minion prints more like the RC, where it has kind of like the rocket spear, to where it will release, I think it's 7. It will release 7 attacks at max level, and with a ton of extra damage, almost 1,000, I think, per. It will target anything, but if you add the Royal Jelly, and you can clear out almost a whole corner with just one minion prince.
And it's upon deploy. You don't have to hit the active ability, unlike the Rocket Spear or the Dark Orb or any of the other things in order to get that. It's as soon as you deploy, it's light switch on in terms of the Iron Fist.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a big change that they're doing, is they're starting to wean away from everything being like an active ability aside from Warden equipment, because Warden's really the only one that has passive abilities at this point.
Oh, like the Life Gem and the Raid Gem you're talking about?
Most other things are just upon use of ability.
And I think that's a theme that we're seeing for the last couple updates, because you have the Spring Flinger with a new siege machine, which sits in, deploys on the sideline and launches.
Oh, I forgot about it.
I think we're going to also forget about the Furnace, where it sits passively on the side, releasing things. And as soon as the Minion Prince deploys with the Noble Iron, it's firing off. So we're seeing a lot of things that are happening immediately on the sidelines versus like waiting for you to initiate it inside a battle or anything along those lines.
All right, so let's move on to the timing of this update, and I'll let Drac take this away. This is his specialty. Is why did they release now? Feels really late.
On the flip side, it also is really early, because last year we had the updates hitting after CWL in April. So we had our updates then. So we're seeing something that's either you can consider it 2 weeks early, or it's something that if you're going to release something in March, which usually they would want to do right after CWL to give a couple weeks of doing upgrades, is they pushed it a week later. I think one we talked about last episode, they're setting up for trying to get all this out to set up for an event. But what I don't like is it only leaves 1 week for any updates, new equipment to go through, people trying to update attacks within just a week before CWL hits, versus the normal 2 weeks that you might be able to get if it happened the week earlier, say the 17th, which was where I predicted the release was either going to be the 17th or the 24th. It hit the 24th. We're shortchanged. And if you look at things of trying to get ready defensively, this is going to favor those clans who are willing to drop a lot of cash to be defensively ahead of other folks. Where if you had that a whole other week, there's more build times to get like those supercharges in, defensive upgrade is completed, etc.
And the biggest part is the army camps. Getting those 20 extra housing space in total. Some clans that can't afford that can be devastating for CWL. That could drop out a clan from Champs 1.
Yep. For me personally, today, when that was the second thing I upgraded, number one was the mono. Got to use that hammer. Getting the camps upgraded. I was struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks with some time fails. Lots of 98, 99% time fails. Today, nothing. It was most assuredly finishing. I think I'm on to both my Legends attacks being plus 320 on both on offensively, just shredding bases with that 20 extra camp space. I think Wolfie's right is for those who can afford to get the camp spaces done quickly is definitely going to be an advantage, and especially if you're not able to match defensively.
Let's move on to the next massive quote unquote feature alert, which is the Super Yeti that got leaked on accident.
This is one of the times where maybe we should record this, with video, because you can't see the Lego hands quote around feature. This was a bug on Supercell's part, but I think community wise, this is going to be considered a feature where we get to see the Super Yeti.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the Super Yeti. I really like Yetis. They're probably one of my favorite troops behind the dragons, even though they're really dumb. The Yetis just...
Are there any smart troops?
No. Only smart troop
is the one you don't deploy.
Well, no, but I was going to say it's the sneaky goblin, because they always go after the same thing each time.
Oh, what about the assassin?
Oh, that's true. Except they like to run ahead of the army. That is the one problem I have with them. I think this Super Yeti with the chaining lightning for the mites is overpowered. But it also comes with a cost of 35 camp space.
Are they the new E-Drag?
I really hope not. I really hope Super Yetis aren't the new E-Dragon, because we are getting them at Town Hall 12. Oh man.
Is this going to be what some players resentfully say, like, no, I won't use it, even though it could be effective?
Yeah, like you did with the E-Dragons.
I still do with E-Dragons.
Yeah, I will never use E-Dragons anymore. I tried them at Town Hall 11 or 12. No, just no.
On pseudo, it's still level 2. I don't care.
Pseudo is his mini that is a Town Hall 17.
It's not really a mini, it's just the alt at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things while we were gearing up for this release, because there's a couple of troops that got updated, like Golem and Hogs, and we were playing around with them. We were doing some hard mode practice. And why were we doing hard mode practice, Wolfie?
Because we have our monthly Sons of Guns
1v1 tournament, which I got lured into because you couldn't win out.
I know. I lost to a dear friend of ours, Fuzzy Nuts. No,
Fuzzy Nuts?
Fuzzy Nuts. Yeah, I refuse to call him a beaver. I think he's not secretly a beaver behind the mask.
I think I'm just going to call him vanilla flavoring.
Oh, yeah. Like that. What were we talking about?
The 1v1 tournament.
Yes, the 1v1 tournament, which is fun because it is a 1v1 in hard mode. You try and get the most percentage and the most stars, if possible, against another opponent. And it's March Madness style, where it's a bracket. And I got kind of destroyed. I only made it through, 3 rounds?
I didn't even make it out of the first round.
Yeah, he got matched against one of the top players and just got nuked. But it gave us a new idea from C to Cook, which I'll let you take away.
So one of the things, I hardly use hard mode until the last couple weeks. I am entirely focused on CWL. That's my shtick. Where C to Cook deployed a golem in front of his royals as part of the entry. That protected them and gave him another, 5-7% over me. So he won on percentage by a few points. I went and did the same base I deployed, and I adjusted my army and dropped a golem in front of it. And it picked up 20 percentage points for me. It went from 65% to 85%, which would have been a winning percentage by far if I had known that tactic before. But that led me to say, what will that do for my Root Rider Valks is if I deploy that in front of my Royals? All of a sudden, a lot of the time fails and other things that I was seeing all but disappeared for the week that I was testing. So one of the questions I brought up to Wolfie is like, have you tried protecting your Royals?
I had not. I had been putting in just my queen on a corner and letting that take care of just the corner with the giant arrow. I have now since switched, and this is with dragons, I have now switched to bringing my king, my queen, a golem, and a siege barracks in a corner, and then using a wall breaker, get it into that corner, and then just blowing up the whole thing with the earthquake boots. And combine that with an RC charge, spirit walk on the other side, and you just have like this massive just corridor of a base that you can just walk right through.
So that led us to ask the question of why don't we revisit some of the troops that have been with us for a long time? Like even our buddy Trample, he released a video doing Valks and Root Riders with an old school Zapquake.
Yeah, similar to the Quack attack.
That's an attack with Yetis and using 8 Quakes to blow open a base and going and nuking the core with heroes and Yetis.
Invented by the lovely Duck and then popularized by King Redbeard.
Meanwhile, back in the Batcave, why don't folks go and, Wolfie, from your perspective, why don't you look at older troops?
Typically, they're very underpowered in most cases to where it does not outweigh the cost of not using, say, Root Riders or Dragon Riders.
Wolfie and I asked the question of why don't we revisit some of these older troops? And we had to think about it. Is one, it takes work to go back and find synergy with older troops and new troops because you just have to be able to have time and be willing, and you find joy in going through oh, what about this new army comp or what about that? And being able to do it, where I think a lot of folks just want to know what works for them and they go on.
Yeah, I know. I was stuck with, I think, the same dragon army for almost 2 months, and I just wasn't having the best success. And then add this whole new golem, which who would think with a dragon army to bring a golem? And it just started wrecking bases back and forth.
Yeah, and speaking of our friend Duck in hard mode, he brings 4 Quakes to pop open bases to allow the Royals to go in. So instead of bringing, could easily bring a jump or something of that nature, but being able to use things from the past that actually, they're sound tactics. I think that's something that's lost.
Yeah, like the bat spell and what is it? The haste? I never see those in attacks anymore.
Yeah, the bat spells kind of disappeared. What, Town Hall 14?
Adding one more bat each time just isn't doing it for each level. Supercell's like, oh, we're gonna add one more bat. We're gonna make this giant update.
Spend 300,000 dark to get one extra bat.
Yeah. Whoop-de-doo.
So I think we'll dive in more in the under the hood section about what happens. You have all these troop choices to go through.
I'm gonna need a drink for this one.
So as he's enjoying his artificially sweetened fizzy water.
It's just fizzy water. You can just say sparkling water.
It's sparkling water plus artificial flavoring.
You're reading the box.
It's artificially sweetened.
It does have sweetener in it, I will say. I'm a sucker for it.
But the other thing that happened around this time is Supercell has released new customizable bundles in their store that's on the website. For those who decide to go and buy stuff, please use, we choose to use code Trample because we support our fellow creator Trample Damage. At this point, let's take a pause and, think about the other creators that have influenced us, especially the podcasters. We have Redix Talks Clash. That's one of our favorites. Congressman Coolrick and the other subreddit moderators over there have that one. We have C Notes Clash Tour. I hear Dr. Pepper might be a future sponsor.
Ooh, I'm excited about that as a Texan. It's the only right drink.
And as our friend Trample, he hosts Inside Clash. Near and dear to our heart, of course, is the closest to it is Pineapples and Thorns with Kat. And she brought on a new co-host. The Invariable T has joined her as a co-host. For those who don't know, T writes the guide for Super Rushers, and if you want to know the most efficient way, and there is without a doubt, as I've looked at the math, it is pretty much the most efficient way to get from 0 to max. So check out T's guide if you hadn't. There's a new release coming out soon after all the changes. Hopefully Supercell slows down on the changes so T can take a breather on doing the updates to his updates to his updates.
So many updates recently. I don't know how he does it. It's quite impressive. All right, speaking of Kat from the Pineapples and Thorns podcast, this next question was inspired by a conversation between Drac and Kat. Do you guys feel that we are reaching a tipping point with Clash of Clans? At what point is it simply too much for player base?
So we're diving in under the hood. I went and took a few minutes to chat with Kat to try and really get to the gist of why she was asking this question. And really what it boils down to is TH16, its release changed the game. Literally, where it's gone from old school Clash of Clans really was about the whole army, and Heroes supplemented that. And now Clash of Clans, the whole universe revolves around heroes and equipment. That was a massive shift. And when it was first released, we were all excited. Then came a barrage of tons of equipment.
So much equipment.
So what you're looking at 6 pieces of equipment at least on, or is it 7 now with the snake bracelet on the king?
I think it's 7, yeah.
And so we're looking at averaging 6 pieces of equipment per hero. That's a lot. So that's getting close somewhere between 28 and 30 pieces of equipment within the next month or two by the time we get the next event coming in April. And so that's a lot. Having choices isn't necessarily a bad thing. There are pros and cons. Some of the pros that we get with all these choices is you can get a ton of ways to tailor the attacks to your style. Do you like doing smash attacks or air attacks or ground attacks, or do you want to favor straight up heroes? I'm going to say if you want to favor straight up heroes and you like that, you want to hit the Warden Fireball with the Rocket Loons. Yeah. So there's just various ways that you can do things depending on how you want to play the game. And the other nice thing with having the choices is multiple equipment combos can work. Because the king, you can do certain attacks with the Rage Gem and the Giant Gauntlet, or the Spiky Ball and the Earthquake Boots, or the Vamp Stash and the Spiky Ball. And you don't have to be locked into a particular type of attack. Because if you did not released, it was oh, you hit the ability and here come a bunch of barbarians going with it. That's great and all, but if that's not your style attack to have a bunch of little barbarians run around, then that's too bad. You were stuck with that. But now you can have multiple combinations. You can have a variety of armies, equipment, hero combinations. because you can pull, now that we're having 5 heroes for 4 slots, and I think would not surprise me if we get a hero later in the year with Town Hall 18's release later on. If you can have variety, it's harder to make particular bases that are anti a certain meta, or you have to pick a certain meta and then you leave yourself vulnerable to a couple others. There are lots positives for having choice. On the flip side, too many choices can be overwhelming. Our brains, and it varies on the person, will literally at some point shut down if you have too many options. If you look at the grocery store aisle and you go down your cereal, that's in the chips. Those are the two worst ones for sets of choices.
There's so many. I can go down and I can see how many things of Cheetos are there at the grocery store at HEB, which is the superior grocery store for shopping at. I will die on that hill, and likely will die on that hill because there are some angry West.
HEB is an amazing grocery chain here in Texas, but let's actually use that as an example. You have HEB. My dad, Wolfie's grandfather, loves to talk to store managers. We get all the details from it, but we did find out that our local store reduced from 100,000 items that they were stocking. 100,000, just let that sink in. Down, and they tried to reduce it.
Is the sink at the door? Do I need to let him in?
Like our local grocery chain that is superior amongst superior grocery chains, reducing their inventory from 100,000 items to 80,000. Now that seems like it's still a lot, but it's a big grocery store. Reducing the things that they have to manage. It's reducing complexity. It's reducing choice. The people who shop there, they have to make fewer decisions, which gives our brain more energy, because every time we have to make a decision between things, we're spending energy. Additional choices is all sorts of complexity, and each brain, how it's wired and the environment it was raised in, will always at some point hit limits in terms of complexity. Ultimately, one of the things, with choice is this is a mobile game. People just want to pick it up and have fun. And if you look at these numbers are just rough. It may not apply directly, analogous to Clash of Clans, but the way users interact with websites, be it like Reddit to Facebook or whatever, a lot of times 90% of people will just consume things and move on. They don't give back at all. 10% out there are actually consuming additional content. These are your folks that listen to YouTube videos, are probably the biggest one, or TikTok videos. About 10% of folks who will use Clash of Clans will actually go and consume that content, which does not surprise me that it's roughly that amount, given like the number of subscribers that folks like Judo or other content creators get. It's on that order of magnitude. Then about 1% are the ones that are generating content or driving changes. They're coming up with army comps and helping their clans do things, versus how many people in our clans, Wolfie, are like, well, what's the current meta? Just tell me what to use.
Quite a few. I do think in the raid it is less than some clans, but it is quite a few.
And this is where like attracts like, where the rated is a very highly competitive war clan. We tend to attract people who are super competitive.
Seriously.
Looking at you, Fuzzy. I'm a perfectionist, so I have nothing to add to that. If you are trying to be part of a game, most people just want to pick it up and have fun. So having an overwhelming amount of choices means you're more likely just to settle in of what you think works for you or what is good enough, and you're going to give up.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen for that trap before, especially with, the old root writers. I'm not going to use the overgrowth. I'm going to stick with my 3 rages. And in some cases, it worked extraordinarily well. I would rip open bases. I got free reign of the map from it. But in all honesty, switching to even just one more overgrowth would have made such a big difference for me.
And that's where it's the learning the value of flexibility and being able to spend the brain cycles to adapt. Adaptation and flexibility takes more energy on the brain and takes more stress on the brain. And so people are likely to tend to avoid that. They want they can build the quote unquote muscle memory of being able to hit their deploys. And it's why meta shifts are actually kind of stressful, because that means people can feel like the rug's being pulled out from underneath them.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that before, especially when they got rid of, the root riders being almost half as much health. That was a rough change for me. And yeah. I think it was for Drac too.
But it could have been worse
Way
because they
worse.
could have gone after the DPS.
Ooh.
If they went the opposite direction of have the DPS but kept all the health, I think it would have been a way worse of a change. Regardless, we have 30 plus troops. We have 30, 5 different heroes, 30 different pieces of equipment. All of a sudden, you have all sorts of combinations it's just a lot.
Not to even mention the pets.
Don't even get me started on the pets and that grind. All these different combinations lead to what's known as analysis paralysis. It's so many different pieces of equipment, so many different army comps. There's no easy way to really try them, especially with the equipment. It's here's a brand new piece of equipment. Should I, 18 levels for common, 27 for an epic. If you're not spending money, it's going to take forever to get an epic equipment leveled. People don't want to take the risk of investing all that time and energy if they have no way to even try it to see if that fits how they like to attack.
I will say they do have the nice little the candies now that you can try out some things in FC, but those are once a month max.
Yeah.
So I will play devil's advocate a little bit there.
Like, I'm not sure what you're advocating for. Like, I get 3 hours to try max equipment.
No, you actually get 3 attacks. So you can save them in your, you can use them and do 100 FCs, and then you just have them.
That's if you get that.
That is
magic
true. I
snack.
have not gotten that thing in a year almost.
Yeah, I get the chocolate Legos all the time, which, by the way, is my favorite magic snack.
I actually prefer the Builder Bite. That was a joke. That was sarcasm, if you couldn't tell.
Uh-huh.
I hate the snacks, except for the chocolate Lego. The only one I tolerate.
So if folks couldn't tell, that sarcasm sign he was holding up was visible from space. Going back to the equipment, not having ways to really try it, people choosing something and investing in the wrong and feeling, whether or not it's real or not, they feel it, which is valid because it's data. It's what your body's producing. The weight of you have invested in the wrong thing it's there.
It's rough.
Especially if you're not willing to put money into the game, that the risk and therefore that weight of feeling of being wrong is just exacerbated.
I think the biggest cost of being wrong is you get this attitude of you just feel like you've done something wrong, and all these expectations are like, oh man, I just wasted a month of resource gathering on one epic equipment, and then they're nerfing it to the ground now, even now with the electro boots.
And it doesn't even have to be nerfed. It could just be, here's this new thing that is quote unquote better.
Yeah.
All the YouTube videos shift and all the creators start talking about it, or your clanmates start using it. Like, oh, I remember experiencing it with Fireball because I invested in different equipment, and all of a sudden oh, look, Fireball is being used left and right.
Fireball this, Fireball that, Fireball the core. Yes, we know. It
can feel like it's a mountain out there that you have to climb. When playing this game, if you feel like, oh, I look at this mountain I have to climb, and you just see the magnitude of where you are now and where you're of the goal, it can feel daunting. You give up, or it feels stressful, or you feel like you don't have an environment that's going to help you. But if you can change the way you view it and set expectations of the only way you're going to hike up a mountain is one step at a time.
Going up those molehills. I do think that we are going to get a mole pet eventually. That is one of my predictions. I will go off on a tangent here. I think we are going to get a mole pet soon.
Will it build mountains?
I honestly think it could build a ramp over a wall.
That could be interesting.
That is my little take.
All right. You're uncanny in terms of your long-term predictions. Wolfblade predicted changeable equipment 2.5 years before it happened.
Yeah, that's my biggest one. You always predict the updates, though.
Wolfblade predicts the contents. I predict the updates. That tangent aside, when folks are looking at this more and more like this mountain that you have to climb, be it epic equipment or whatnot, really what it comes down to is, can we provide a community to where we can help set attitudes, goals, and expectations? Because those are so important in approaching anything in life. The brain science is there. The community that you surround yourself with, the longer you're in it, the more likely you're going to align to its views. When they say it's like, oh, the brain is made up of the 5 people who are closest to you, that's actually kind of true. And the community, when you're in clash, is the longer you're in a community, you're going to absorb it. So we want to have communities that foster, okay, being able to say, you got this. You can approach the getting starry one clan war at a time. Community is important. It provides either resiliency around facing the long road, or it can just reinforce the negative aspects. There's no such thing as being neutral when it comes to brain science. It's either positive or negative. So really finding a clan and community that fosters support is huge in terms of dealing with the stressors. Like if we're going to give up on the game, or it's too much, or we're feeling it's too much, that community is what's going to give us the resilience to get through it.
Yeah, I like that.
So one of the things that we get with so much equipment is there's a lot of it. There's a gating factor to it. And that's going to be the glowy and the starry ore, especially for the epic equipment. Unless you're spending money on these events, it's going to take you a long time. And the only way you're going to efficiently get through it is constant warring, constant CWL, and that means how your reward is dependent on the clan as a whole. And that's stressing.
Yeah.
Because for common equipment, if you go to Legends, you can do your daily hits and you get shiny and glowy ore, and you can do all your common equipment independent. But as soon as you hit epics, that is dependent on the clan.
Yeah.
Or spending money.
Yeah, lots of money. I think the biggest thing for me is if I fail an attack, it almost feels like I'm getting rid of starry ore from my clanmates, not only myself. You're eliminating almost like 150 glowy ore, or not glowy, starry ore for the upper levels, at least per war almost.
35 to 50 people per war times
7, 8 starry ore.
Yeah.
It adds up. Yeah. And so I think we can kind of switch into like, what is this lack of these resources due to the brain? And I'm going to let you take this away because you're the one who knows brains.
And so what we find is in situations where you want to provide, you can use an example of providing food for yourself or your family. Not having the resources is a stressor. The lack of readily available resources in terms of the glowy and especially starry ore for the epics, it can lead the brain to the stress response. Now, again, this is on a per individual basis because all brains are different. Is this lack of, in this case, you can compare it like food security of being able to feed your kids. That's just like if I wasn't able to feed you, Wolfie, my logic processing would not be anywhere near as good as it is because we have the luxury of having food on the table. But in the same way of not having resource security for this game, and again, this is like just because something is illogically a game, because this is a game and we're tying it to food, the way our brain treats scarcity is still the same. Even though it doesn't really impact our life, it impacts what we value and what we care about. That can lead to a stress response of, oh, I don't have enough of this. I can't get enough of this. If I am having to struggle to get it, it actually impacts our prefrontal cortex and can move us into the midbrain, which means we're even likely to even do worse on our attacks. This is where Supercell really needs to address it to improve enjoyment of the game, is to not have as much scarcity.
Yeah, I think it definitely strips some of the fun of the game. Going from hit to hit, and you're like, oh, I have to triple this, triple that, get my star bonus, try and stay in high legends so I can train for clan war. And you just get this added stress of I have to do well.
And not just do well, but you have to do it on within every 48 hours, you're constantly warring versus, hey, I want to take a week off. Well, if you take a week off, that's a week less of 3.5 wars.
Yeah, that's a lot of ore gone.
Yep.
Ore from the war.
At least with like the daily bonuses, you're able to make progress independent of war, to where you can take a war break and make progress.
Yeah. And I think there really needs to be some more ways to get ore, whether it be from like the season pass, which that's a whole nother episode. I'm going to say that and then they're going to revamp it next month. Crossing my fingers, hoping my magical wish comes through.
Well, if it works like what we talked about with training times being a stressor, let's hope.
Yeah. But the biggest thing is clan games. The economy, it just doesn't match well. And I'll let you take care of that because that's like more of a development thing.
The clan games, they haven't seen a revamp in that at all. Since equipment came out, nothing's changed in terms of what you get in clan games. Same thing with the gold pass. But let's focus, in terms of stressors of people, like, is there too much to do? It's like clan games. It's like, because it doesn't align with player goals and values that are currently happening, clan games goes from like, oh, this is a fun clan event to it's just a chore. Oh, how can we make sure I'm participating enough to where the clan is getting all 5 levels of the rewards? It's not something that's aligned, especially for players who are maxed or getting close to max. There's nothing in there that they care about other than, hey, I'm supporting my clan mates. And
Or a rune every now and again. Pump 3 walls, if that.
I can get a couple research potions. Like, the things that truly impact the upper tier players, there's nothing. Clan Games has not adapted. So it becomes a stressor for people because it's a chore versus, hey, I'm actually making progress for my base. So it's at best neutral, but I'm guessing for a lot of folks, especially I'm going to guess in the Red Thorn family, since there's a lot of Town Hall 16s and mainly 17s, is it becomes a negative aspect to the game.
Yeah.
Or where they go over to the gym base, try and do things. And before they used to be able to crank through it because they could force quit, which they took that away this release.
I am a little sad about that. And our poor friend Trample no longer going to be able to force quit his, 30 accounts at this point?
Or he just might have to have a different rotation where he doesn't do every single account. He just rotates through them.
Jeez, I don't understand how he does it in that respect. So I'm going to wrap this up with one last little side tangent about the chests. And we had this discussion already, so it's not going to be new to us. But it feels like the chests aren't labeled correctly.
They're not.
They really aren't.
And it's not that the chests are bad. I think it's actually a great way to add some things other than having to tap them 4 times. That's stupid. But if you look at it like common, that's fine. You get, oh, look, I get a little bit of ore, a little bit of gold. But when you get to epic, well, what you get in there better feel like kind of epic.
Yeah.
And then when you open it up, you're like, here's 100,000 builder gold or 1 million, maybe even 1 million builder gold. Don't care. You're like, eh. Or then legendary. Now, legendary can feel it. Like on one of my alts, I got the stone, golem. I got the golem skin for the king. That actually kind of felt legendary. Some of the other things is like, oh, you get 32 starry ore.
Yeah, I got 28 starry ore from an epic, which I will take starry ore. Don't get me wrong. But I was more expecting when I saw starry ore, like 50 from an epic chest.
But did it feel epic to get 20?
No.
And that's where I think a lot of people feel a mismatch of when you see the word epic or the word legendary, you want the reward to feel like the label. So I think chests are doing great in terms of statistics, in terms of people getting things. I think the rewards actually relatively match, but they really need to rename that.
Let's move on to everyone's favorite segment.
What the actual?
And we're both really tired. I'm on my 4th sparkling water. Feeling a little woozy over here. So let's move on.
Yeah, our first question comes from our one and only Fuzzy
Beaver Nuts.
And he goes by Fuzzy Beaver Nuts. He has the extra special vanilla flavoring. He is the leader over at the Rated, where Wolfy and I are located. Check us out on Discord if you haven't already at the Red Thorn family Discord server.
From the Clash Files is how you get there.
You can come to the Clash Files too, and you'll get redirected. But his question is, has Legends felt different for you this month than usual? It's been more frustrating for me the last couple months. Not really sure why.
Absolutely. I think it is a massive difference, just more psychologically. I think that I felt more stressed and like less motivated to do my hits each day, to where it just doesn't feel like Legends anymore. I don't know if you have a better explanation.
I think for me, I'm a little more data driven because I look at like which players you're getting matched with in terms of ranking and looking at like their bases. I think base building has changed. So I think it's catching up to the Spirit Walk meta. I think there's also players who target anti-roots and anti-dragons, and they change out their bases, and folks who change out their bases as they go up in levels. I think that's definitely, I think base building has caught up to some of the meta that's been going around. The other is we did see release of new defenses and supercharges that happened to it. And I think that's caught up as well a little bit. And so even a 5% change can hit enough to where we actually feel like things are different.
Yeah, especially without that 5% offensive upgrade from the heroes.
Yeah.
All right, so our next question comes from the lovely $ C note $. What was the first thing you upgraded?
Mono with a hammer.
Mono with a hammer. And then immediately after that, army camps with the hammer.
Yeah, I just used army camps with books, but
Yeah, well, you have extra books, a bit more than me. All right.
Mr. Ash, he brings the question of how do you think this update will affect 3-star rates?
I know a lot of creators like Itsu have said that it's gonna like stay roughly the same or even go down. I think it's gonna go up. The extra 20 camp space, it may not seem like a difference, but like you said earlier, it's allowing you to rip up bases now.
Like for me personally, I think it will start the triple rates will go up because people will prioritize camps and then the defenses, and then it will come back down. And I think it's going to level out just because the mono and the inferno towers and the builder huts, eventually it's going to catch up with that 20 extra camp space, especially with the supercharges. The mono getting the supercharge for the first time, as well as the new merge defense. I think it will just add up and eventually probably balance itself out. Probably, and I hope wind up being a little harder.
Yeah. I think 3 stars should feel more like I got a 3-star versus, oh man, I didn't get a 3-star.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think it'll be about 3 to 5% harder in the long term, but I think we'll see a surge of 3 stars again because people will prioritize camps.
Right. So our next question comes from Duck, which is Quackers. So, what do you guys think of the Super Yeti? Which we kind of already covered a little bit earlier, but I'm super excited.
I think it could be a very fun troop. I like it. I'm guessing it's going to need a few might adjustments to it.
Oh yeah, just a mite of adjustments.
Yeah.
I think it'll be electrifying.
Shocking, isn't it? I think it's going to be a fun troop. It's 35 camp space, which I think is about right.
Yeah.
It's a little less than like the Super Bowlers, which I think at 40 was a little heavy.
Ooh.
I think either it needs to be like the mites in terms of like the electro needs to be nerfed a little bit, or from what I've seen, or the camp space is going to have to go back up to really balance it.
Yeah.
Because think of an army full of these, of like
Going to be so
5 of
much
these
fun.
things. It's going to be fun.
I think you get 8.
But you're going to have other troops,
Oh, that's
like
true.
healers or whatever to go
Yeah.
along with your heroes.
I actually don't think you would bring healers in that attack because you need them to be damaged to go down.
Yeah. So maybe like the
I don't
quack,
know.
like the quack attack with the double quad quake to open up the base with these things to rip through it. That might be fun. It will also be base dependent in terms of where things cluster. And again, why it reminds me of Electro Drags and probably why I won't like it is people will just have a lot of spread out bases still where you don't get it quite as effective.
However, that will make the Electro Boots just a little bit more weaker.
Yeah.
More weaker.
Well, that's why they've been making the bases more spread out, was to weaken the Electro Boots.
So I don't think it'll be as strong as everyone's raving it to be, but I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. But one thing to note, and speaking of mites, is there was a troop size reduction in terms of the space on the mites from 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, which means the clones on them become even more effective. Next question, Mr. Ash. What comps do you think will work well with the new pet?
I personally think things that will have charges, like Warden charges, Queen charges even, but Queen charges haven't been around for a while. But
well, at least not at Town Hall 17. The new defense just shreds the healers, and I think in the same way that the unicorn's is not going to come back at Town Hall 17 is the same reason.
But yeah, I think Warden charges and now Minion Prince charges with the new equipment but you need the Royal Jelly for that. So what I have seen online is you will do a Warden and Minion Prince charge at the same time.
Good luck multitasking.
Well, but they're in the same space. So it is interesting to see. But I think the other strong case is in smash attacks, putting it on the Warden to where the little boogers will fly ahead and tank up some more red mines.
But only the red mines, not the black mines, which is it's something, but it's not great.
That's where I think the Minion Prince is just so much better.
Yeah. So in terms of where it can be effective, like trying to protect healers or you're just doing an air attack.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it's a niche pet. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's some creative stuff.
Yeah, I hope there is.
So the last question comes from us from the also wise Darth Yoda. You have both played in the SOG 1v1. We talked about this earlier, a few months now. What are your general thoughts on it, and are there any ways we can improve it? To recap, the 1v1 is bracket style, one and done in terms of elimination, and whoever gets to the end is crowned the champion. And this is done in hard mode. You're given 5 minutes to scout each base, and then you both start at the same time.
I think the biggest things that I would change is the first one being make it 2 out of 3. I really think that would help it to where it's not, oh, you get one chance and if you wreck an attack, you're gone. I think, but you would also have to have 3 different types of bases. And it would be more interesting as you could adapt your attack based on what the other person's base was.
Well, you still can.
Yeah, you can, but you don't get to see what type of army the other person is using. And so that could be interesting is now that you know what that person is bringing, do you change up your comp, like your base to be a dragon, anti-dragon type of base? But then the other person could say change their attack again. Like it adds that whole nother level of complexity. I don't know. But the other thing I would like to see is more of like a spectating part of it. I think it is a little underwhelming in that aspect to where it doesn't feel like there are a lot of like people watching. Like I know from my last attack of this 1v1, it was sort of late in the season because I was trying to organize with someone, but they didn't get the Discord message. Oh well. And it felt kind of like underwhelming almost. It didn't feel like a spectacle. It felt just like a mundane like task that you had to do.
I think one of the things where I would suggest is think about like a pool play of like having 4 people at a time all face each other and they all just do it all in a row. And then you get points to move to the actual 1v1 part. That might be interesting.
Make it like a point system.
That would be interesting. The other is to actually be a little more structured with time. Now, I know some folks, like for a lot of folks in SOG or those coming over from the rated, we're in the US time zone. There's folks over in the UK. Time zones are a difficulty at times. I think part of it is knowing ahead of time of which time zone your opponent is. So Darth Yoda, when you guys put your bracket together, just note if we can, like which time zones folks are in. So we don't spend a couple days. And I think that's the other thing is like when I was matching with Cedar Cook over in the UK, I didn't know that. And so that was new information. So it took us a couple days to actually sync up, and that delayed getting through the season. But also just having potentially set times to where you can just get through the tournament, actually have a bunch of people together and encourage each other and watch and have some more energy around it versus, oh, let's go meet up in some, other person's clan at 8 a.m. It kind of takes something away from it. So that's where I would recommend is just being able to figure out a way to add some spectating to it in terms of energy and some, I don't want to say pressure, but like in a good way of
friendly pressure.
It's different of, it's kind of like baseball. There's a difference between batting practice and actually in a game.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our questions today.
Yeah, that's the last of our questions. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the creators. Thank you to Supercell for creating a nice game. I hope you listen to some of our feedback to help improve some of this someday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Next time, we're going to try and do a special episode where we get some creators.
Kind of fool around a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, y'all.